this is a follow-up to the first video I made, kind of going through detailing how I made the splash page for, or the channel art for YouTube. Obviously, I'm actually using this image for some other things too that aren't just YouTube related. But I realized through doing some of my videos and stuff like that that this doesn't really sum up all that well what I'm really doing. So I needed to edit the text as far as sort of what my tagline is and change that a little bit. So, but one of the things that I have going on here is that along with this text, I can hide the text, and there's actually white blur behind that, and then there's blue blur even behind that. So that's with nothing. This is with just text, which obviously is why I didn't leave it like that. That's with the blue blur, which actually looks pretty good. And that's with the white and blue blur. It's actually interesting that the blue blur looks that good. Maybe I'll just leave it as blue blur. That actually looks maybe not quite as good. I don't know. We can play around. We can try a few things, change a few things here. So, but what I wanted to kind of walk you through was how I originally did this blurring and sort of the backlight. This is actually one of the first things I learned how to do in graphic design. I was probably maybe 12 years old, something like that. It was one of the first logos that I had for a company of mine. Used essentially this. It was a black blurred background, white text on a white page. So it really was just the blurred background that you got to see, and then you got to see the internal characters just by the kind of stark outline there, and then the blur expanding out from that. It's actually, I believe they call it Neon Backlight or something like that. I don't remember what the technical term is, or if there really is one. But it's something that you'll see pretty often in certain, like maybe New Age restaurants and stuff like that, that they'll, trendy places or clubs or something like that, that they'll actually have a sign that is dark, and then they'll put neon lights behind it. So you'll actually be able to read the sign essentially from the neon shining on the building or the wall behind it. And then the letters themselves are actually black, or say the color of the building, usually I think black, so that they don't reflect any color at all. So anyway, so the new tagline that I'm actually switching to, the way you get here, by the way, is we do have all these different layers here. So you always need to be clicked onto the layer that you want to edit. And you do actually need to use the right tool as well. So you can see here that I'm on the right layer, but I can't edit this. I need to actually have the right tool selected as well. So once I have the text tool and the right layer selected, it actually pops up an edit box, and I can actually copy and paste text in here, and everything will be editable. Now, what I've decided to do is actually change this to, let's actually hide these backgrounds so that we can kind of sort of see. The new tagline is going to be Code, Electronics, Robotics, CAD, CAM, Cooking, and Business. So I'm taking out programming and swapping that for code. I'm also taking out the adventures in at the beginning, just to kind of shorten it up. I did have some other ideas of some stuff that I could put in here, but I just really kind of want to make this as short as possible. I do a lot with all these things. Business is probably the only one that I could kind of maybe pull out, but I do a lot of stuff with business, and I have a few posts that are kind of queued up for business-related things, and business kind of gives me the ability to talk about just about anything, Amazon or whatever related. So anyway, I think this is the text that I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is I still have these, obviously, these backlights, but they don't line up anymore. So I'm actually just going to delete these two layers. So delete the layers, and then reselect this. So the next thing that I want to do is I actually want to duplicate this layer. So now I have two copies. So either one of the copies are showing, you see the text. But for this bottom copy right here, I want to click on the link right here that says discard text information. Pull that in the screen just a little bit more. It says discard text information. And what it does is it turns a text layer, as it says, into a normal layer. So it actually changes the icon from being the text icon to just a standard layer icon. So the reason for this is now, if I try and use the text tool in here, it'll just start a new text box because this isn't actually text anymore. It's really just essentially pixels. It's converted to pixels. So I can still go back to this one and edit this with the text tool. This layer I cannot edit because it is no longer represented as text. It's been converted into something else. Actually, I'm going to back up one step here and convert that back to text. So one of the things you can do, so I just hit undo a few times, is you can actually change the color of it first. And let's actually maybe try just a blue, maybe a blue background for the highlighting instead of doing the white and the blue. Maybe we'll just do blue. But it's easier to actually, I mean, you can change the, which one did I change? Looks like I actually changed them. Just drag them in the right order here. So I've got the black one on top, got a blue one underneath. So I think that blue is actually a good blue. Instead of doing the white and the blue, maybe I'll just do the blue as the background. So now that I have that correctly configured, now I want to actually discard the text information. The reason I need to do that is that I cannot apply filters to text information because it needs to be filters. Or excuse me, it needs to be just regular pixels in order to apply these filters. So I'm just going to click blur, just regular blur. That should be fine. And it can't really even notice it, but it did actually blur it just a little bit. I'm going to leave the lower layer selected. And if you notice here that Control F, instead of find, as it is in most programs, actually repeats a filter. So I'm going to press it several times, and you'll see that you'll be able to start seeing blue text up here. You know, you can kind of see that blue outline a little bit. So the filters kind of, you can see right here, it's already pretty diffuse. So maybe we'll actually back this up a little bit. I'm actually going to back it up perhaps to about right here. And then what you can do is actually duplicate this layer again, and that will make the sort of the brightness of it double, because it is on a transparent background. So by doing this, it sort of doubles the density of the backdrop. And then we just sort of need to look at that and say, hey, does that look good enough? Is that readable? You know, is that readable? It's okay, I would say. It's probably okay. If I zoom in, it is definitely black text, but it really almost looks a little blue just because it has the blue writing on it. It's not the most readable, but it's okay. I'll take it. I guess I could always copy the layer again, just duplicate the layer again. Duplicate the layer again. That'll make it a little bit more present, a little bit brighter. You know, I'm going to do that. And there are other ways to accomplish this. I just did it in this way. And then what you can do is you can actually right-click again, merge down, right-click again, and merge down. So now we've combined all three of those background layers into one single layer. Don't have to do that, but just for, you know, unless you intend on editing it again, it's something that I would recommend that you do. So since we've done that with the lower text here, I was never really quite happy with the way the A and the E, the way that these really came out here. So let's actually kind of come back up here. And as you can see, we have basically the same thing we had for the lower text previously, is we have the two backgrounds, and then we have the actual text. And you can actually see that the text is still in text format. So let's just delete this layer. And let's delete this layer. Let's actually change this instead of being 2 Just change that to be number 1. And then let's duplicate this layer. And then we want to change this to be the same color. So this is a list of your prior used colors. So basically this light blue color that I used should still be there. And then when we kind of click off of this, you'll see that we have the blue text and then we have black. So blue and black. So same process, we just right click, discard text information, and then the filter is actually still selected. So Control F will blur, as long as we're selected on the right layer, which we are. Control F will blur, and you can kind of see the blue is starting to appear at the edges. So let's actually look. Yep, there it is. It's getting blurrier. So you can see there's several times I've applied it. It's getting pretty blurry. Alright, I didn't really count how many times I applied it. And there are other filters here that you can use. Like this blur kind of gives you more detail as far as exactly like what the blur is doing, as opposed to just hitting blur, 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 many, many times. There's definitely multiple ways to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this layer again, or duplicate this layer and then duplicate this layer again so that we have our 3 copies. And it looks approximately the same, close enough. So I'm actually going to merge down and merge down again so we have all 3 layers now on the same place. Now it appears to me, don't want to make new text, it appears to me that maybe part of the issue of what I was actually showing with the E maybe had something to do with the component, the little solder joint that was actually behind that. So let's actually re-show this background, and maybe I want to move that up just ever so slightly, move up that Kane and Hooper text. So I believe I can't really select both layers, but I believe you can lock them together, and I believe you can do that by basically doing this command here and just locking those 2 together. I believe that's how that works. Let's see if that locks them together. Yep, sure does. So you can see now that I'm dragging these. Even though one is text and one is a graphic, I'm actually dragging these together. So this is the original position, and I just want to move it up ever so slightly. I want to keep it centered, so make sure that those line up. I would say that is pretty much perfect. So let's actually take a look. Yep, we're still underneath the top here, so we should still be, it says text and logo safe area. Let's unlink these 2 layers, and let's actually link these 2 layers now. And let's actually maybe move that up just a tiny amount. Maybe we want to, you do have to be a little careful, because if you click through the layer, you can actually move layers that are below. So you don't want to do that. So you have to make sure that you see the pointer is highlighted. Just move that up to about right there. How does that look? I think that looks pretty good. So we are well within our borders here for the text and logo safe area. I think we're good. I actually could have moved that down instead of moving it up. Maybe that would have made more sense. So let's relock those 2 layers. Maybe moving this down and maybe centered a little bit. Maybe make it right here. Maybe that makes more sense. I wasn't really paying attention to make sure that I was actually staying within the original box. So the way you do that just is I was selecting the background layer, so it's actually the little dotted line is all the way outside of the screen. If you do select this one, it'll show you where you were selected before, so that you don't get off a pixel off center or something like that, and it allows you to more easily drag it down. So let's say about right there. Maybe a little bit more even. Right there. There we go. Kind of like that. Maybe we should even move this little tagline up even more. We definitely can. Definitely, well, we don't want to run into that blue thing right there. So maybe we should just leave that as is. course, if we wanted to, we could always move this. I think that was the router image. I'll always move that one down. Oops. So you can't select through layers, and since that layer is on the top, you have to. Okay. And also, if you have enable, I'll drag this up here so you can see. If you have enable mask or edit layer mask, when you click to drag, it'll actually click to drag the layer mask, as opposed to dragging the actual image. So you want to be really careful. Do something like that. And then come back up here to this. These two layers are still linked. So let's pull those up to maybe about there. See how that looks. Does that look good? Still well within the middle. Still have like a little on-off symbol there. So I think that's good. Again, I'm not a graphic designer. This is not perfect by any means. It's definitely not, definitely not ideally perfect. I could work on this for days and never get it to the point that it's really what it should be. So let's see here. Which one of these is actually the code window? This one. All right. Well, let's actually view this layer. Edit layer mask. Show layer mask. So the white area is the area that comes through. So if we come over here and use the spray paint tool, a larger brush size than this, we can actually make a little bit more of the code show through if we want. Let's switch over to that. So that shows a little bit more code coming through. And it's also going to make that a little bit darker because this is on a black background versus the page behind it is on a white background. So I think that maybe makes it look just a little bit better, having it be in a slightly darker background. So what do you think? Obviously, we don't want to draw on that layer. All right, I'm going to call this good. So again, the reason that I save this file as the source file, we definitely always want to save that because now I can always go back in, we can always go look at these, we can always change these relatively easily versus having to completely rebuild this entire file every time we want to make a change to it. So from here, I'm just going to go export, export as, and export the image out, and that is going to be the new image that I use for like intros to videos and stuff. So there still will be the other one out there on a few videos. If I really cared, I could go back and edit those videos, but I'm not going to do that. So just wanted to sort of show you a quick video of how to do the neon sign effect, and also a little bit about layers and how to use Gimp.